Let's see how we can make a fully responsive navigation bar inside of Figma, which we can switch between the desktop and mobile mode by just resizing our browser. So get sure to watch this video until the end. My name is Kia, and here's the Kimo. Welcome back to my channel. I have published many videos about the responsive design inside of Figma, and I really recommend you to watch those videos before you continue watching this one. So you can find the link to those videos in the description of this video, or you can click on the pop-up banner on top and watch that video right now. I will try to explain these things in a way that you can understand as well in this video. But before we get into the video, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel if you're new here, and if you haven't done it yet, like this video and share this video with the other designers in your community. These are the ways that you can support me to continue making more content regarding the design, UI, UX, and etc. In the first step, we're gonna design the navigation bar itself, and then we're gonna make different variants for different screen breaking points, which we're gonna use later on to make our design responsive. Just have in mind that I'm gonna keep the design of the navigation very simple. We're not going to have a very complex layout. Plus, I'm not gonna use the variables in order to make a responsive design. However, you can of course do that as well. So let's jump into the Figma. So let's start with the main element in our navigation bar, which is going to be our navigation items. I'm gonna pick the text tool and then type item, maybe 1 or items, doesn't matter. And for the naming, I'm going to just rename it to nav items. The naming here doesn't matter so much, but if you are going to hand over your design to the developers, I really recommend you to consider a proper naming for your layers, which is going to help your kind of dev team to understand your design better. For now, we have this text layer here. In order to be able to have a possibility to define padding around this text, I'm going to convert this text layer to the frame and apply auto layout on that. In that case, in the auto layout section in our properties and design panel, we would have possibility to define padding around the text. I'm going to do this by using the combination key Shift A, and you can see that we automatically made a frame and add our text layer as a child layer within that frame. And here we can decide the padding. For now, I'm just going to keep it simple as it is, 10 pixel. Maybe we can go later on to 8 pixel, but just because I don't know how I'm going to make the layout later on, I'm not going to set the specific amount for now. Then I'm going to make a copy of these layers, maybe 5, and it's really dependent on how many navigation items you would like to have in your nav bar. And then I'm going to select all these item layers and going to, of course, apply another auto layout on these frames in order to be able to define the gap between each item. So I'm going to use the same combination key Shift A, and here in the auto layout section we can kind of define the gap between these items. Of course, I forgot to say that we can play around a little bit on the styling of the text. Maybe we can have all in capital, for example, or we can have a little bit more permanent text style, like we can have it like a bold, and in this stage also we can even decide what kind of navigation item we would like to have. For example, home, I don't know, projects, it can be posts, about us, or maybe contact. In this project, I'm going to keep the process very simple. However, usually I'm going to make a component for the navigation items, which will give me full control on the design of each navigation item. For example, we can define different variants, hover state, or for example, click state for our navigation items. Plus, it will help us in maintaining our navigation later on easier because we have full control on each element in navigation bar. But for now, we're going to keep it simple. We have the list. Now we can go for the next step. Maybe we can have a couple of action icons in the right side here. It can be, for example, a search icon, and we can have a logo in the left side. So let's add this element into our navigation bar. I'm going to open the action menu, and here I'm going to switch to plugin and widget panel. You can use any plugin for adding icon. For now, I'm going to use feather icons. When the plugin is open, I'm going to search for maybe search icon, and then I click on this, and then I'm going to kind of grab it and put it here in the corner. And we can also add the user icon, user profile icon, and let's put it also next to this one. Later on, when I'm designing the mobile version of the navigation, I definitely need the burger menu. So I'm going to add the burger menu here as well. But let's put it somewhere here because we're going to use it later on. The next element that I would like to have in my navigation menu is, of course, the logo. I do not have any specific logo in mind. So I'm going to open the action menu. I will switch to the plugin and widget tab, and I will try to find a specific kind of plugin that can be used in order to import some sort of logos into my design. For example, here I'm going to click on this logo Epson. I'm going to select, for example, this one and this one. Later I will show you why I decide this two. Now we have this two logo as well. The reason I choose this two logo is that I would like to have also responsive behavior in my logos, meaning that I would like to use this logo for the desktop version and this logo for the mobile version, or maybe other way around. So I would like to have a combination of these two logo for desktop version and only this logo for mobile version. In order to group these two part of the logo together, I'm going to select these two and use a combination key Shift A again to group them. Now we have this brand section. I'm going to do the same thing with the icon as well. So let's group them together. Okay, now we have the all element that we need for the navigation. Again, I would like to remind you, I usually convert each of this element to component, which will help me to have more control and increase the maintainability of my elements inside the navigation. But for now, we're going to keep it simple. In this step, we can select all these elements and group them together with the same approach and method. So I'm going to use the combination Shift A again and group this element in one frame. We can work more. We need to add a background image or background color. For example, here I'm going to add one white background color, or maybe a little bit grayish that we can see better on the white background. We can, of course, add a little bit padding, maybe a 4 and 16. So we basically have 16 pixel horizontal padding and 4 pixel vertical padding here. And more important is that we need to take care of the responsiveness of our child element within this navigation. For example, if I start to resize the main parent or the navigation frame, you can see nothing is really behaving properly. What we can do here is we can set the gap between these child layers, which is the logo, which is the items, and the other one, which is the action icon. We can set it to auto. In this case, if we have more space in the parent layer, the gap between these child layers are going to also get expanded. So we basically fill the whole area. As I said at the beginning of this video, we need to design different variants for different screen breaking points for our navigation bar. So let's say that this is going to be our navigation in desktop view. We need to have another version for the mobile view, in which, for example, I would like to hide this logo, and maybe we can reduce the size of the logo to something a little bit smaller. Maybe we can have it 18 pixel. Plus, we won't have this navigation items here, so we're gonna hide this as well. And instead of the navigation items, we can have a burger menu here in the action menus. And then we need to again get sure that the design is responsive. I usually design the mobile version, the mobile basically navigation for a minimum 320 pixel. So usually I check if in the 320 pixel width it's kind of behaving properly, then we have a nice navigation. In this step, I'm going to select these two navigation bars that we have and make one component, or convert them to the component set, which means we will have a one component with different variants. I can click on this three dot while I'm selecting the two element that I want to convert to component, and click on the create component set. Our component set is ready. However, the properties that is defining these two different variants has no name at the moment because it's a new property we made. I'm going to change the name to layout, and then I'm going to select the first variant. You can see the value for the first variant is now default. I'm going to change it to maybe L or large, and I'm going to select the second one, and I'm going to change the value to S. This means if later on we make one instance of the navigation bar that we made and then change the value of these properties to S or L, in this way we can also change the variant of the navigation, so we can switch between different variants of our component. Let's imagine that this is going to be the frame that we are going to add all elements into it, all the components, all our design, and we basically make our final page and layout. Go to the asset panel and add my navigation because I would like to have navigation bar here as well. Of course, I need to add it, or need to get sure that I'm adding it to the parent layer, which is right now here. But you can see that if I start to resize the parent layer right now, the navigation is not going to kind of change. We need to, of course, change the horizontal resizing behavior to fill the container. In that case, it's going to fill the parent layer, which is now fine. So it basically has a proper responsive behavior. However, it's not fully responsive, meaning that if we start to make the element or the parent layer smaller than a specific amount, you can see the navigation is going to get broken. There is no enough space. And of course, it's not going to switch to the mobile view. And that's exactly what we want to achieve today. So we would like to get sure when the screen, the parent layer, is going to get smaller, the specific component in our design is going to switch to different variants. So to do that, we're going to use one plugin, and I'm going to show you how. I'm going to use Responsively, which is the plugin I showed you before in another video. You can click on the pop-up banner on top and watch that video as well. I explain how you can make a responsive layout using that plugin. And this plugin will help us to define a different design for different breaking points, which can be totally different. And then it will at the end give us one component which we can use in our design. First of all, I need to make one new frame and then add the one instance of the navigation bar that we made into that frame. For example, right now, frame number 1, I'm going to make it or name it nav. Let's get sure that we do not have any padding. And here is important for us to define a specific size for this frame because it's going to be basically our breaking point. So for now, I'm going to set the width to 1000 pixel. Also, I'm going to rename it to 1000. And then I'm going to make a copy from it, and let's reduce the size to maybe 600 pixel. Let's rename it to 600 pixel as well. And you can see here in 600 pixels it's still behaving nice, not bad. But maybe we can, in order to get sure it's going to behave better, we can maybe switch to a small or to kind of mobile version of our navigation when we have 600 pixel width. So basically this is going to be the breaking point to mobile view. And then I'm going to copy this one and then make the minimum width size, which is 320 pixel. Let's make another breaking point for a bigger screen like 1400. Here we have now all the design for different breaking points. You can make different variants for this component, which they might look different. And then you can kind of define where you exactly want to see that specific variant. For now, we're going to keep it very simple. So we have two different variants. And here I made a breaking point and showed exactly when I would like to see one of these variants that we have. Now it's time to select all these frames and go to the plugin section and search for Responsively, which is this one. And I'm going to run the plugin. And this plugin is going to automatically make one component, which you can see here, and one instance of the component, which is the one that we are going to use later on in our final design. As I said, we're going to use this one. I'm going to make a copy of this here in the frame that we would like to have as a final design. As I said, there are 2 points that you need to get sure to consider in your design, in your layout, in order to have a responsive behavior. First is that you need to use auto layout for the parent layer, and all the child layers. So all elements or all components in your design should have responsive behavior, meaning that when you start to resize them, they should in some sort behave properly. The second thing is that you need to get sure that the resizing behavior of the child layers in the parent layer, for example, this desktop is the parent layer and then we have the child layer, all of them should have a fill container as a horizontal resizing behavior. And it's very simple, the reason, because we would like that the child layers follow the resizing kind of behavior of the parent. Now here you can see if I start to resize the the parent layer, which is our desktop frame, my navigation is going to switch between two different variants that we have. One is desktop view and one is mobile view. Only problem I have with this plugin, after you convert all the breaking point that you have to one component, you cannot easily go and switch that thing. However, you still have your component. Let's run the prototype. When you run the prototype, there are some stuff that you need to take into consideration in order to be able to see the design in a full responsive way. First thing is that you need to use or set the view mode on basically responsive mode. In this case, the layers or the layout that you made is going to fill whole screen and it's going to follow the size of the display. The second thing is that you can hide the UI of the Figma. In this case, your design is your design is going to fill whole screen and you won't see all the Figma menu. Now our design or our prototype is running on full responsive view. And here is the result. You can see that I have the browser and I have my design within my browser. And then when I start to resize my browser, you can see that our navigation are going to switch to the mobile version. And of course, smaller than 320 because we didn't define any design. It's going to be empty. You can of course think about that as well. So in this way, we can make a fully responsive component. And this was the navigation menu, the first component that I showed you how we can make it fully responsive. Here you can see one example that I have made for myself. And in this example, you can see we have the navigation bar with more complex structure. For example, here I have some child component in order to create this hover state. And if I start to resize this menu or this browser, you can see that the navigation bar is also switching to mobile. So in this way, we're gonna make a fully responsive design within the Figma, which is very helpful and handy when it comes to making prototypes. And that was it for this video. I hope you learned something new and it was helpful for you. And it was so, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel right now if you're new and if you haven't done it yet. Like this video and share the video with the other designer in your community. And please let me know if you want me to show you how we can make more responsive components, or if you want me, for example, to continue working on this navigation bar. For example, what will happen if we click on the burger menu and add more interaction to it. You can write your thoughts and opinion and questions, of course, in the comment section of this video. And in addition, I would like to remind you that I have made one Discord server, which I'm still waiting for more people to join there. So I hope to see you there soon. Let's learn together and see you in the next video.